Can the Ultramarine Legion 40k successfully defend Reach Halo from the Covenant? So, I came across this subject and I kind of put it on ice for a little bit, but now I think it's a perfect day to cover. Because for whatever reason, I'm getting a whole bunch of who would win with 40k versus whoever. And I think this is one of the more interesting ones for sure. Keep in mind, if you ever played Halo Reach, the Covenant is much scarier than what Master Chief had to go through, essentially. Master Chief versus the Covenant seems to be more of an outlier, or, you know, more of the exception rather than the example, because the example is what happens at the end of Halo Reach. If you haven't played Halo Reach, I'm not going to try to spoil it, but the Covenant's very powerful. So, I think this would be a great subject to kind of dive into to really get the scale of 40k to see how it would compare to something like the Covenant. A Space Marines chapter of Ultramarines at their strongest versus the... Oh, okay, so here it is. Space Marines chapters of Ultramarines at their strongest replace the UNSC defending Reach around the planet and on the ground, not the whole Legion. Okay, so not the whole Legion. The Covenant, can these Space Marines prevent Reach from being invaded in glasses? I don't know what that means, but we all know what the Covenant is in Halo. Come on. And at the very least, I'll put the Covenant on a thumbnail. But they're essentially an invasion of giant aliens. So, okay, let's see how this breaks down. Blueberries at their strongest as a chapter, not Legion, would be current, heavily reinforced by Primaris, and implied to no longer strictly follow the 1,000 Marine limit. Okay, so apparently there's a 1,000 Marine limit. I would like to see how that would work as well, but okay, we'll keep going. They are commanded not only by Calgar, who's awesome by the way, but also the G-Man himself. Who's that, Gilliman? While your average Marine is going to lack the shield of a Spartan, their armor, weapons, and all other assets are superior. Not to mention they are quantifiably stronger, faster, and just overall better. Okay, so this guy's... Wait, any Spartan? Even Master Chief? I mean, I can see Titus beating Master Chief in a 1v1 100%. That would actually be an insanely cool fight to see. But faster too? That's interesting. They're really big. In space, the numbers of Covenant ships would pose the biggest problem. However, the 40k ships have such a huge advantage that I don't think it's going to be really a problem. Faster than light speeds are going to the only real advantage the Covenant has. Okay. So the only real advantage the Covenant has seems to be a space battle, apparently. And that isn't as useful when are talking about fighting in a gravity well. Dude, the worst part about sometimes reading these posts in the morning is if I can't tell I'm like reading poorly or if their grammar is all mixed up. And it's a little bit of both. Finally, I saw that we are giving the Ultramarines a week or so of prep time. Let me say that again. Wait, we're giving the Marines a week of prep? I mean, might as well. I mean, it's a war. There's always prep time. We're giving Robot, I know your plans before you do, Gilliman. Oh, I never seen Gilliman's first name. Wait, so Gilliman's called I know your plans before you do? A week of prep time. This is the guy who figured out the traitor High Lord's plans so well that he knew exactly where they would be and what they would be doing far enough ahead of time to have assassins in place to take them out when they thought they were victorious. We are talking invading Russia in winter levels of bad here for the Covenant. Oh, really? Okay. Well, I can buy that. If the Ultramarines has Gulliman, and he's really like that good of a combat strategist, or you know, a combat general, he knows what's going to happen, you know, all that. Yeah, I don't think the Covenant has anybody like that. The Covenant is basically just pure brute force and science and alien technology. Yeah, I don't know. I've never seen anyone in the... Oh, to be fair, I actually played quite a bit of Halo. And yeah, I don't think anybody in the Covenant has been shown to have that sort of foresight. Essentially, they're all just very aggressive. And I don't know. If the Covenant can get if the Covenant can get no diffed by Master Chief, I don't see how they're going to be able to deal with any of the Ultramarines. But okay, I want to see. This was a pretty good post, but I want to see more opinions. One thing I will say is the Covenant use plasma weaponry as standard issue. Gameplay aside, lore-wise, plasma weapons just ignore Marine armor and can punch through all but the thickest parts of a Spartan's armor no problem. And basic plasma weaponry would become a serious issue to UNSC armor as well. While it wouldn't be a single shot, a hail of plasma weapons could absolutely disable a Scorpion when it would shrug off normal ballistics all day. Plasma is also extraordinarily effective against Marines, and the plasma attack in 40k is much more unwieldy, while Covenant plasma attack at worst burns your hand if you constantly overheat it. Their basic plasma weapons would mess up. Then there's also the EMP from charged plasma pistols. Even one is going to crap out a Marine's armor for a few seconds, which, while it wouldn't stop one, it would slow them way down. Beam rifles are also an issue, and Covenant AT, like fusion cannons, would splatter a Marine. Overall, that's going to be the biggest issue. Okay, so apparently the Covenant has a really good set of firepower. Covenant standard issue weaponry poses a far greater threat to Marines than the standard issue weaponry of any faction in their home setting. Example, Necrons, I guess? Sans Necrons. Dude, okay, little side note. Necrons, the first experience I had with Necrons is playing the Magic the Gathering Necron deck. And I was looking at the Necron deck. I was like, wow, this is really cool. Okay, so there we go. A little bit of a defense for the Covenant here, which I really, really appreciate, because I don't want to read too many comments that are just like, oh, the Covenant, yeah, they suck. They just get destroyed by Marines. I want to really visualize the advantages of both sides here. And I think this is actually a pretty good point, is the Covenant actually has some pretty damaging weapons. Now, here's the thing. We all know plasma bullets travel slower than, hit scan, bolt weapons, all of that. I genuinely can't see how they basically would be able to continue trading with each other. I feel like if the shots start flying, the Space Marines are going to get a head start, pretty much. Even though those plasma weapons are strong, they are definitely not going to be faster at taking out enemies than bolt rifles or anything or practically anything that the Space Marines have. I think if they go plasma for plasma, it gets more close. It becomes a closer fight. But if the Ultramarines are using like heavy bolters and just going crazy like that, I don't see how the Covenant can keep up enough pressure to stop the Marines from attacking them, basically. Even if we don't have Papa Smurf leading the chapter, we still have Calgar, Titus, Sicurius, Felix, Tigris? Okay, 3 of those names are new to me. Every one of the above could body John. A full force of 1,000 Space Marines and supporting assets would absolutely kick the crap out of the fleet that went to Reach. That said, without a normal army to act as a defense, most of Reach is going to burn before the Covenant are put to fight. So yeah, okay. Was that part of the stipulations? Was Reach has to, not burn completely down to the ground? If so, that's going to be a problem in this fight, dude. This fight has a lot of firepower. So arguably one of the strongest weapons is the rocket launcher in Halo. A bolter is basically a rocket launcher with a magazine. Dude, could you imagine if the game actually had lore accurate bolt weapons? Hey, who knows? Maybe Tyranids are just that resilient. Space Marines would just mow down hordes of Covenant soldiers, and they realistically wouldn't be able to stop it. A 100 Space Marines probably could have stormed the Covenant army in tip of the spear, and won simply because they are as big as brutes, faster than elites, smarter than jackals, and have more martial prowess than even the finest of the Covenant soldiers. That being said, the Covenant on the ground could probably resort to just ignoring the Space Marines entirely and picking off auxiliary forces until the Marines have no supporting forces, and then just try to swarm them with tanks and artillery. The biggest problem in this situation would be the space battle. In Halo, a UNSC source, I forgot which book, said that acceptable odds for UNSC versus Covenant ships was 3-to-1 or 4-to-1 odds. Later on the UNSC, Infinity changed that calculus, where they needed entire fleets to fight that thing. According to the Halopedia, the Infinity was 5.6 km long. The flagship of the Ultramarines, McCragg's Honor, is, every time when I see McCraggy, I can't stop thinking of the video game donkey video. It's funny. If you never heard of video game donkey, I don't know what you're doing. Okay, so the Ultramarine McCragg's Honor is 26 km long. It is nearly 5 times as big as the Infinity, and is obviously far stronger. The Covenant would get eaten alive in space simply because that ship and all the supporting ships would just crush them long before they hit the ground. Dude, okay. This sounds so cool, man. Imagining just like a huge war in space, and then we have the war on the ground. Like, dude, amazing, amazing. This is why comparison posts like this are super fun. Just because if you have good imagination, this is like a really, really good way to just jump into the world of 40K and such. Just imagining how big their fleets are and how powerful they are. And then, yeah, the Covenant is definitely... I think this is a good matchup, but obviously, I think the Ultramarines just have too much firepower. The Ultramarines chapter, arguably at the strongest, is probably in its current incarnation with the McCragg's Honor reactivated and reboot Guilliman at the lead. Am I saying that right? Rob Guilliman. Guilliman existing at all. Guilliman has better mental processing than literal supercomputers, and he claims he can remember everything. He has talents that can be applied elsewhere if given enough time. Granted, no idea what he can pull out of his ass only given a week. I mean, apparently given a week is actually a lot for Guilliman, apparently. Guilliman is single-handedly probably the most dangerous thing on Reach proper, and would be a morale nightmare for the Covenant and a propaganda golden goose for the UNSC. I don't think anything realistically threatens him in a 1v1 or even a 1v100. Okay. I don't know. I'm with you for the most part, but like 1v100 against plasma weapons is kind of what we're dealing with, so I'm not too sure how much he could tank. Ultramarines fleet assets. I don't know exactly how big the chapter fleet is. Well, we do. We broke that down. I'd hazard probably a few dozen ships. Given the fact that the legions at their peak tended to have thousands, I don't think, however, that fleet assets would be probably would be a huge tide turner with yields. Like a single volley can destroy continents, a possible to hit them, but we need to be lucky range of 1 million km. The biggest ship in Ultramarines fleet being able to go 1% C in what is just a brief conversation. I do think, however, that the fleet assets would probably be a huge tide turner with yields. Okay, I get you. I don't know the exact numbers of ships that Coveys bought to reach the Coveys. I don't know the exact numbers of ships the Covenant brought to Reach, but pound for pound, Ultramarines fleet assets being added to the UNSC fleet assets would also be huge, considering a broadside from a random Ultramarines battle barge is a delete you button against Covenant ships. Okay. Well, all right, this is good. I like the way he broke down Guilliman and all that. Ultramarines fleet assets. I do think, however, the fleet assets would probably be a huge tide turner. Because if the Ultramarines fleet has weapons that can just straight up delete Covenant ships, then yeah, that's a GG's. That's a GG's. I mean, even if it sounds like the Ultramarine ships, their peak is much higher than the Covenant. It seems like the Covenant goes for more of like a go wide strategy, and Ultramarines go for more of a delete everything strategy. So. Yeah, I don't know. It was a good matchup, but I do think the Ultramarines have this, considering that they pretty much have bigger weapons and stronger soldiers. They're not, apparently they're not as wide, or I guess if we consider the Covenant, you know, the exact way they went after Reach. Yeah, I don't know. I think the Ultramarines have this pretty clearly. I don't know. That was fun, though. That was definitely fun. Let me know in the comments how you feel about this, or if you have any notes about Guilliman. But yeah, that's pretty much the way I'm going to look at this, is the Ultramarines are definitely just a more powerful army. And I see them, you know, saving Reach, essentially. Okay, well, that was a good breakdown. I really enjoyed this. Thanks for watching.